No. Podcasts are tough because they're usually so long to get people to get going on.
Yeah, I do a lot of driving, so I have a
That
chance to
helps.
be efficient with my knowledge intake.
I do the same thing. Yeah, I do it on drives. I do it when I cook. Um, if you guys are ever just in the kitchen cooking, like podcasts, I think are super entertaining for me. So all those little gaps in time, I try to get them into. I listen to a lot of nonsense, so I'm gonna be so super honest. All right, Justin, we're gonna um, start off with you. Actually, I took a look at some of the videos that you sent um, last week that we didn't get to. Make this bigger. And I just want to use you for a really, actually a good example. I really like what I see in a couple of these. So I'm gonna play it through, and if you guys notice, anything, just obviously point it out. There was a few things I noticed right off the get go. Besides, holy shit, those are hard.
Yeah. God damn.
Anything you guys notice on this? And even still, even though he tucked, he's still applying some really good stuff. So the tuck doesn't make it a difference or matter at all.
He's holding
Yeah,
that hollow really well.
yeah.
Yes.
His
And
feet are above his waist, and even when he gets in the tuck, his knees are above his waist. So those are good positions.
Yeah, I love these positions. That was this and one other thing is why I just wanted to quickly like show this. It's a really good example of just like he's like chasing virtuosity in this L sit. L sit's such a simple movement. Like there's not a whole lot to it, but he keeps like Elisa D pointed out, he has that little hollow tuck going here. So I know his pelvis is it's not just his hip flexors that have pulled, his pelvis is now rotated as well, which tells me those, especially those lower abdominals and like the some of those extra muscles in the core are really activated and really working hard here. Obviously, this position, in a full L is a very hard position for anyone unless you're a gymnast. So then I think he does a really good job that when he needs to, rather than losing the height here and those legs dropping and it's starting to fail, which would still be pretty effective, he goes into this tuck. And then in the tuck, he maintains that same hollow there as well. So it's like, what would you rather people do? A really nice air squat or a light back squat and it be mechanically very sound, or go really heavy and the wheels fall off the bus. Like no difference here in this LSIT. So Justin, really nice job with that and getting that tuck. And then, have you guys ever seen a V sit? I think it's called V sit. It's V something where they're like on parallettes and like Pam has a picture of it and her arms are down and she's literally like in a V going up. It's like even though Justin, you may not ever work toward that, like if like this is a stage of striving to that, which is only going to make your core stronger, and we love that, especially in CrossFit. So really nice job. I just wanted to point out that hollow, which you guys caught really fast. One more thing. Anything else you guys see that you'd like?
like his shoulders. I know he's really trying to focus on having an active shoulders and pulling down.
Yeah,
And that
active there. I love the grip too. Like if you take a quick look at his wrist, like he's got a very like pseudo false drift going, like he's on top of the bar a bit. He's not just like dead hanging into that relaxed wrist. And he does, it's hard to see with the light, but I can tell by the way there's some meat coming off the bone there that he's got his thumbs wrapped around too. I always tell people, if you're trying to get used to wrapping the thumbs, just go hang. Don't worry about going into muscle ups and making the flex. Just get used to it first. So Justin, really nice job with this video. I just wanted to share that from a really good standpoint. Anything else you guys want to say or add to it?
you lucky bastard. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I'd be shaking.
One thing I was considering, as opposed to tucking the knees in and just holding it there once I started fatiguing, was to it sucks really bad, but just to let the eccentric come down on its own and just fight,
Fight it.
and that is you can get really strong by doing that. So I was like,
Yeah,
yeah, which one?
I think that would be unbelievably effective also. And then I would just say like vary it up.
Yeah,
Next time
that's
you
what
do it, yeah,
variance.
let the eccentric take place. But I think like I wanted to use that for like if we do get him in class occasionally, especially for accessory work. Like scaling athletes to a single leg tuck or the double leg tuck to stay there rather than like an obtuse angle and they're like a 45-degree. I don't even think that's 45, like 115-degree angle. I'd rather than tuck the knees and actually close that off to start. So really nice job with that, Justin. And then I'm gonna showboat you one more time. Also with the L sits, with you guys have those parallel bars, but if you guys have parallettes in your gym, you can use parallettes, or you can make like a makeshift and do it on a box, or like you could even stack plates. I like the stacking plates option because now the floor is there and you have to like fight to not accidentally touch the floor. But that support with the arms down will start to create a lot of shoulder stability as well. So vary that too with it, Justin. I did 1 month of doing L sits every day on parallettes. I don't know what got into me, but it was one of the best decisions I ever made. My front rack, when it came to a barbell, got ridiculously light and easy no matter what the load was. And I did it all, arms down on a pair of parallettes. So it's that black box theory, like taking something like that and translating into a barbell and stuff.
I'm basically every other day mixing my pull-ups with my dips. So I'm already doing a lot of that dip kind of high hold stuff.
Yeah, the
So that's
stability.
already, yeah, I'm doing that
That
like
should be
twice.
worked in, man.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're doing a really good job with getting both. And the hang obviously has great grip application. So we looked at Justin, you had that toenail spot a couple weeks ago where we felt like the bar was too low because you were like flat-footed and like it was like a full stand. I think this height you did a really good job with. If you guys look at his knees, he's got like just slightest soft knee, so he's tall enough to do the chest to bar, but it's not like he can just stand normal. So pull up real quick. I've got just one thing I would change on this, especially if you're, coaching class.
At the top, he kind of arches a little bit. Kind of gets out of the hollow at the top.
Maybe a hair, but I would say I have a bigger one.
I would try to say like, hey, the elbows not to flare that much, but actually point it down and close to your ribs.
Hate his elbows, D. I think you were saying it. What I would say is bigger fish to fry versus those two things. Like I think those two things could come into play. And then he is tried to say 4 times the range of motion, right? I would go range of motion first. Then you see how the elbows is still a little slight, and not that you have to go to this fully like relaxed dead hang. You could and then reactivate the shoulder and then pull, but I would at least get to the straight arms with an active shoulder still happening.
It's just for acting, for being like, I don't know, I got the same wrong. What's the internal rotation or is it external? Like doing this and activate
External.
actually the lats to.
It would actually be external. I see what you mean, Jose. Maybe just like a hair better there, like a hair more tension there with like the torque. But I would tell you, I would yell at you to just finish the bottom of that pull up, like get those arms straight. Because if we're thinking about getting stronger and like just doing this to add strength, I need the full range of motion in the joint to make those muscles as strong as possible, right? So that would be like my triaging, my initial thing that I'm gonna fix, and then we'll do like the seasoning on it. Because I mean, little tweaks for sure they're always there. And then let's look at the push up. A lot of good things about the push up I really liked. But now Jose's like, hell yeah, I like the elbows, right? He does a really good job with that. I'm gonna restart it.
Was this a variation for the morph?
Yeah, you coached this class.
Cool.
Remember, I was gonna do the vest. I think you coached this class.
No, I
Damn.
didn't.
You
No,
went
but
from
this
vest to toenail spots and elevated. I think
Well,
you
that's a
picked
cool
a.
mark.
I
That's
was
a cool
scaling
mark.
down 2 things and trying to scale up 1 thing. So
You were
I
kind
did a
of.
goblet. I did goblet squat as opposed to a vest. Oh no, I think Gina coached this class.
You got super creative with how you're modifying things. I think the height of the bar, I think you did a really good job at picking. And the reason why is you start off the reps. I can tell you're working and your entire body's moving as a unit. So I always look at that when I look at people's push-ups, like are the hips also going up and down along with the chest and shoulders?
And I used
The
to
reason,
snake all the time, so I'm trying to fight this snake thing.
not snake.
Yeah.
So I can even like kind of see that. And even like where you start to get a little fatigued because there's a rep or two that you kind of nosedive it and the hips don't move as much. And then you kind of auto correct and you feel that. So the fact that I see you do that tells me that like they are getting a little challenging, they are getting hard, which you need to, move the fitness needle. But I wanted to show this video especially because, especially on those initial reps, Justin does such a good job with this entire unit moving together, right? And people will argue with you guys that are like, oh, my chest hit the floor, and their legs and hips never even moved. So like in reality, it's like they're doing a knee push up in like this unique plank. So take a look at that, after you look at where the arm placement is and make sure that the person is moving their entire body, is moving the entire unit. There is a really old article Glassman wrote, and it's literally only on the push-up. And he talks about like the contact on the floor and that there is contact, but then there's also not a relaxation. So it's like you're literally touching, you're kissing, there's full tension still on, and then you're back up. And then he talks about like the hand release push-up, to help build the range of motion strength for that really good gymnastic push-up. Let's take a quick look at the squats. Any comments on that before we look at the squats?
All right.
Like the hips backing down, Justin? You guys have anything?
Maybe try to keep his chest up a little bit more.
I say that too.
Yeah, I think like not that it's bad, because I wouldn't say it's bad, because like if you look at his back, like he stays super flat, but I think you're right. I think if you like really worked and slowed it down, it could get a little taller for sure. Even like, with him holding that goblet, that should help counter it even more. I think overall squat's pretty good, but I think if you're chasing that perfection, D, I think you are right. I think it could get better. It's hard to tell with the knee, but maybe on a rep or two, they kind of slightly could cave in. But other than that, like that looks really good, Justin. Feet are flat, butts backing down, full range of motion. You didn't stand on the first rep, but then you fixed it immediately. Lumbar stays maintained. Just maybe chasing that upward, slightly more upward chest. Why would that be so important? Even though we like what's going on with that squat, like why would that be something that we do want to chase?
Better balance.
I'll give an interesting observation from that. I think it was from like 2 weeks ago, and I just did another Murph prep like maybe 2-3 days ago. I forgot when I did it last, but it was just recently, and I did a lot of ankle mobility stuff work before, and my squat was so much more upright, and what I felt was my posterior got a lot more of the work in versus my quads, and I was like, God, it feels so much better squatting. And I think
it becomes more efficient.
Keep the torso upright. That made it more posterior based, and it became more an efficient movement.
Well, I think with the torso upright and like squatting with good mechanics, not just posterior or anterior, I would say it becomes like everything's unified and working together versus when we start to like let things break down. Because if you think of like the really, really immature squats where people really bow over when they squat. What's that look like? It looks like they're doing a good morning and a squat together. So then you say, okay, like the hamstrings and the erectors, like they're gonna have to do a lot more work too. So I would say you're balancing the energy you need to use for those muscles by being more mechanically sound. And yeah, the ankles for sure are going to help that upright torso. We know that for a fact.
And then from how like a feeling standpoint, so that video, I felt as I got into the squat and my chest came forward, it became more weight into the toes. My heel lost a little bit of the contact. And then when I just did it recently, I didn't get that kind of rocking heel up. I was able to keep the feet
Stay more.
and I think that also gave me more stability and more drive, where it just felt better, more balanced.
So also too, when that weight distributes and goes forward into the toes, what happens, guys? We lose something. So these balance comment is like on the right track. Like that is going to be a factor, and especially now when we're putting like a barbell on our shoulder or snatching stuff like that. But if we shift forward, what do we lose?
Lumbar.
That strip potentially goes hand in hand with it. Why might we lose that?
And our gravity is shifting forward.
But we lose posterior chain engagement. So when those heels start to leave the ground and we're no longer flat-footed and we go toesy, our glutes and our hamstrings start to disengage. And what happens is the quads will take it over. They'll make up some of the work that the glute and hamstrings aren't contributing anymore. And then the spinal erectors also start to do not just the stabilizing job, but they start to try to pull also, and they're doing jobs that they're really not intended to do. So when you see athletes, the athletes that get like their erectors and it gets real tight, it feels like tight ropes are running their spine. And if it's happened to you, it's super uncomfortable. They're not hurt. Those muscles are just spasming and locking out. That could be one of the reasons why that happens, because those spinal erectors are overdriving and they're doing more work than they should because the glute and hamstrings aren't doing the job that they should be doing because of the disengagement, because somebody's chosen. So that heel down is like super annoying to hear the coach, screaming. And if you guys that have coached class, you screamed it a million times. Those people are literally losing some of the biggest muscles in their body contributing to work. So that's going to be a really important factor there too. But just that upright torso, when we start to think of, is it going to be that detrimental in an air squat? No, you can get through Murph just fine. I've seen some really, really ugly Murphs where people make it and they survive, right? When we start to clean a barbell and we're putting a barbell on our shoulders, or we're snatching, or we're front squatting, now that becomes a bigger problem, especially when burning energy when we're tilted forward versus not upright.
But you know what? 300 squats, when you do it wrong, the last mile, it's like a
Awful.
killer in the lower back.
Awful.
So
Yeah.
those squats, actually, even with you, if doing with weight, if you start curving, if you do like this, running with the lower back pain, the last mile.
Yeah, if you think of the spinal erectors, like Jose is saying with the back pain, like you're so spot on. Like my back would lock up, and that last mile would probably be most of a walk because of it. If I'm here, I'm more stacked. Those erectors don't have to work as hard, right? If I put a weight on my hand, I can hold that a lot easier. Versus if I do this, let's say that's the torso of my squat, and now I put a weight here, that's a lot harder to hold. There's a lot more tension here with the lever system that's happening. So for the more nerdy approach, just literally think of it as like a seesaw. What's going to be more advantageous for those muscles to spend less energy, or what's going to make them work more? That's why that frontal plane, even in something like an air squat, like Jose is saying, over the 300 reps, balance of that frontal plane is so important. You'll just blow yourself up. And you'll get sore in some weird places too, potentially. Does that all make sense to you guys?
I wanted to add one more thing. Like I saw at the last rep, I think it was only on the last rep of Justin that he just let himself falling. And in the gymnastics course, they were saying, and if you want to look like master, or like show that you are virtuous or something, your eccentric should be at the same time movement and pattern as the concentric. And that's something that I've been seeing in a lot of people, like they free fall on the push-ups on the way down, or free fall on their squat, which is like
Complete
I
loss
see
of
like
tension.
where you can actually get injured. Like I see the girls seeing young girls like knees moving like wide
Yeah,
sideways,
they
and like
collapse really bad. I know
and they
exactly.
free fall and like using it like and that's like where injury may happen. And I'm like, now I'm more aware that when after the gymnastics is, hey, your way down and up should be the same way
Well,
for bar, pull up,
and
everything.
also, if you think about it, like an air squat's very simple, but technically what should be happening is that there is tension there and like the hip flexors are helping us pull down, right? And then if you take it and you look at like an Olympic lift, how many of us have seen somebody clean or snatch and they throw the bar and they're playing catch? The bar's got momentum up, they get all the way under and then it slams down on them, right? And then we're like, that didn't look good. Versus they extend the hips all the way, they meet the bar where it's at, and technically, if they don't have to squat, they're not all the way down there, and they more like receive it softly and it doesn't slam them, right? Because in a perfect world, we'd never have to squat clean until we have to squat clean. It would be like a low power or something like that. So that tension there too, like the more advanced we get, the more dramatic that free fall and just letting like gravity do its job. We shouldn't let gravity do its job. At times we have to move faster than gravity. That would be like a weight lift where we're pulling under and we're actively pulling so we go faster than gravity. That can be important too. But yeah, Jose spot on. Like you can move very fast, but still be of the mind frame like slower down, faster up. And the slower down is just to prevent that free fall from happening. Not a tempo, but a control. So yeah, that's a really good point. Have any of you guys ever seen like Active Life? Their like Instagram posts or anything like that? At least I know you're familiar, and you're probably familiar a little bit. They're a company, and they're like a business consulting company, but for the coach side of it, they don't do coaches development for like CrossFit. They do coaches development from like an injury standpoint. And it's a team of physical therapists. There's a couple chiropractors on it, and their whole thing is that's they're saying slower down and faster up. So like we always need tension. We never want like relaxation, basically. And that's how they treat everything, even on their tests. Like they have like pull-up tests and things like that. Like they want to see that rate of speed. Or we do everything fast in CrossFit. So going slow sometimes is a good thing for us.
Hey, Nate, before we move on to this one, could I have a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, talking about the free fall on the squats, I've seen some people doing when they do front squats, especially on the heavier end, it's controlled all the way down until they hit about parallel. And then from
Then they
parallel,
go,
they use the bounce, and they do like the butt wink and almost bounce out of it to catch up. Could you comment on that?
so I think probably the majority of those people are doing it because like one, they either consciously know or subconsciously like want to get that bounce, right? Like that bounce can be a very useful thing, especially when we start to look at like Olympic weightlifting. Like you do see some people intentionally train like a catch, go quarter up, come down fast and bounce out of it. So it can be a very useful tool. I would say like that tool, I would never do that with someone that's like intermediate or novice. Like I would want them to be a more advanced weightlifter that I know they're going to maintain that like lumbar stability down there. They don't end up with the butt wink like you're saying. If it's like a very not on purpose move and they're trying to control and then they just lose it, that's just going to tell me in their squat that bottom little fourth is their weak point. Like they may not have the strength to actually maintain that, and that's where we would like to put in like pauses, lighten the load, maybe intentionally tempo, but make sure that part of the squat's not going to get lost. That's where like box squats also become a really good tool. I can put them at the depth where I know they get weak. And I don't mean like a box squat, like they tap their butt and go. Like I'm actually going to sit them on the box. They're going to stop momentum, and then they're going to get up from a dead stop. So it makes it like a dead stop squat. So it could be just like a bad weakness, in that position as well. And then it doesn't mean it's always going to be like the bottom. It can also be, You know, you see some people go all the way down, they come out very easy, and then it's like a parallel is an issue, where it's like you want to make sure you're really training that parallel position to not get stuck too. Does that make sense? To answer your question well?
Yeah, that does. Thank you.
Perfect. All right, switch gears a little bit. We got Ty on a muscle up. Right before I left Pensacola, he was super, super close. No one has ever showed him how to do a muscle up besides like me talking to him for 30 seconds. And I told him to look up one YouTube video that he did, and a little bit of magic happened. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. So your face, Jose. So obviously you look at this video and you're just like, holy, there's a lot going on
This
here.
is why
Like,
people that been doing CrossFit for more than 5 years get angry about like someone tries it first time and gets it.
this is, yeah, he's like 6 months in. But you can see like when he just swung around the rings the day I was with him, I'm like, dude, you have a muscle up. Like all of the physical elements are 100% there. He's got the strength. He's fairly athletic, so he can figure that out. But it's just like he needs a ton of refinement now. I'm gonna play it one more time because I mean, there's a million things you can say on this. From what he just did here, what would be like you guys is, let's go ahead and clean that up and fix it.
There's no tension whatsoever.
No, and he says that when he texted me this, he was like, dude, I was just like flailing around. He's like, I know my kip is ugly. So he's very aware of that. And that's where I would start. I'm gonna drag it slow. So when he jumped on the first time, he tried to kip it like a bar muscle, right? He tried to initiate kip from the shoulders. In the rings, we don't want that. We want the shoulders to be just like a completely loose hinge joint. Like they're there, they're allowed to move around. We don't want all this tension. I want the kip to come from the low body. So I want the legs and the core to really be the driver. And he does make a good adjustment on that. Like he kicks those feet out, he gets that moving first, but he's got a little, maybe like too much in the arms, and he doesn't let them just move. So it's like from the shoulders up all the way through the strap. I want that to be up and down and static. And then I want everything from the shoulders down to be what is going. That way he doesn't also start to swing like he does. That's what tells me he's got a little too much tension in the shoulders. But he does a really good job with that. So like high five moment for him, starting to understand that this kip is different from a bar. He's just all over the place though. Feet separate, like that hip to ring is just like he's literally swinging like a pendulum, right? And he's just got too much sloppiness going on in this. So I would start to cue him. Let's go ahead and keep the feet together and just make the legs a little more rigid and start to focus on when you're here. Let's get into a hollow, try to mimic the hollow that we have on the floor. And when you're here, he actually does a good job, decent job on this one. Let's really mimic that Superman. Let's start to find the hollow, the Superman with good tension. And I would just have him do kips. I would start there, have him do kips, and then he does a good hip to ring there. I would have him start those pulls, but like barely grow them. I think if you just fix his kip, like let's watch this video again, and you can make it more tight, it's not bad. The ugliness is all the flailing that's going on there. You guys see why I would start with that? By just working the kip here on the wrists, right? What else could you do? I'm gonna play it again. What else could you do that's not on these high rings that we can also improve probably simultaneously?
You said that's not on the rings?
Not on the high rings.
Oh,
I think high rings.
I mean, just,
If you put him on low rings, you do the fist bump. His hands are so far apart. I mean,
His
that's
transition. Yeah. Yeah, he is like, and he you can tell he's like kind of trying to do it because look how tight he is there, but look how much he loses it. Like that's how you know he's strong. Like he looks like Brooke Wells there. And if you saw Brooke Wells' still shot muscle up picture, that's her position that she's in the picture. And it makes a cool picture, but it does not tell me she's very, very mechanically sound as far as like efficiency is going on a ring muscle up. So that's gonna make his shoulders burn out a lot faster. So yeah, if I bring him to the low rings and I really have him work on more bringing that fist bump and just being tighter, and then especially tighter through that transition, that's going to make him a lot more efficient too. And if you watch this whole video, basically, if we just take his hip and we tighten the kip up, he does, you know, sets of 5 to 10 kip swings, and he's doing it for quality and perfection. And then he goes over to the low rings and he does whatever version you want him to do. It can be a strict version. It can be more dynamic where he muscle ups too fast. If you combine those two things and you can get them in this muscle up, he's going to go from doing a really ugly one to probably being able to string multiple reps, like very, very quickly. So just literally like letting this movement be dissected into 2 spots. And let's say he went back and forth for 10 minutes and did 2 to 4 sets a couple times a week. I think it would dramatically change. You guys want to know the video that I told him to watch? That I see people fail muscle ups all the time because of it. We worked on the kip. So when he was doing it with me, I got him to understand that you can throw the legs. So like he figured that out. The other thing that I wanted him to get is when he's transitioning right there. How many times do you see people do a muscle up? They hit that point, they're plenty high, and it bounces them back out, and they don't transition through. It happens a lot. Mike that gets on the call has a huge problem with this. He's super high. He tries to transition like it's a bar muscle up. The hands don't glide. He runs into issues versus he's here. If his hands don't see how they rotate on the rings and he goes from the bottom and he doesn't let his wrist get like pinched like this and he lets it slide, that's a huge factor in the kipping muscle up, especially if the person's not going to have a false grip. So if they're grabbing up and they're in a pseudo false grip, they need to get good at letting the hand glide on the rings to be able to get through in this position. If they don't, they end up doing like a weird pull up, their wrist gets flexed, they hit here, even though they're high, they bounce out the back, they never turn it over. And that's why the false grip is such an important thing, because it allows you to stay close and turn through and be in the right position for the hands. So even though false grip is going to be primarily for a strict ring muscle up, if you really struggle with transitions, it pays off to get strong in the false grip and to have a false grip even in like a little tiny kip. It'll help you get through there. And a lot of people fight me on that. And they're like, you don't need false grip for kipping. They don't understand that that person's lacking that glide skill and they don't have it yet. So in my opinion, if it's going to be, they can get a muscle up or they can't, tip with a damn false grip in, it'll be fine. Does that make sense to you guys there too? Cool. Notice like next time you guys have muscle ups in the gym, for the people that attempt and are failing, look at those hands too. Like see if there's a turnover and a glide. And you can literally practice that off a ring row. I think I have an old video I'll put in the group where you can see that movement. So you don't even have to get fatigued with getting good at that skill.
So we had for the workout today, we had strict ring muscle ups and, you know, going over transitions and stuff. And I was like talking about false grip and I was like, I emphasized to class, I was like, of course, like we don't do muscle ups that often, so you need to take time on your own to do it. But I was like, you really need to work on that false grip, just getting used to it. Because one, you're gonna get used to it on the rings. Because obviously, when you first do it, it's gonna hurt the wrist. I was like, it's a bitch. You're gonna get used to it. Just keep doing it. And then I was like, that false grip, like with what Justin did earlier, with the L sit, that over. I was like, that grip also translates into your pull-ups on the rig, your toes to bar, because you're able to get more power out of your lats with that grip, but it's a more difficult grip to have.
And you know, if you think about the false grip too, like I'm flexed, like
Correct.
in it. So that flexing is just basically taking that grip strength and like making it an RX plus there too. So
Yes.
even if you have no intention of doing muscle up, you're spot on, like it's going to help with everything else we do in CrossFit. because even if we're hook gripping, it's still grip strength. Like we're still holding a lot of things. So yeah, I think that is spot on. Like I have clients just do dead hangs with false grip in and they don't like it. And the ones that stick with it usually end up with pretty good results. And the ones that skip it and act like they did it usually end up struggling. And it's so simple, but it's effective. If you guys have somebody that's really struggling with false grip, because obviously not everybody is just strong enough to lock it in and sit there and hang and hold. What's something you can do that will help them keep the false grip in? You should see this in real old CrossFit muscle up videos. A lot of people used to do this.
You do the ball, the holding the ball. And
That would
just
probably
hold
be a
it.
good training measure, like when you put it on top of the bar. That's also really hard. So that person may not be able to even do that. Just bend the elbows. So instead of them being straight arms, if you have someone bend the elbows and bring it a little closer and they hold that false grip position, the closer to their body they get, for whatever reason, the easier it is to hold. I don't know if it just helps in the activation or not. So like anytime I have somebody that's really deconditioned, that's really, really struggling, even if they're doing a false grip ring row, that's going to be the one time that I'm like, hey, don't worry about extending all the way. I just want you to come down, keep a bend in your elbows, and then go back up. It works like a freaking charm.
Yeah, I'm doing cap as well, and I did the same. Like I did the same thing. I had them like if they couldn't extend their arms completely, I just told them that for today they can keep it bent, and that really helped.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference. And if you look at like super old, like nasty girls, I think they even do it. Like all of them are starting their muscle up like this. And when you see like a lot of first muscle up videos, you notice that they're all starting like that and they don't start dead hangs. That's why. One, they're not going to lose tension. They keep tension, but two, it just really helps keeping that grip in.
So then I have a question. Because if we have strict muscle ups in a workout, is the standard the same? Like, do you have to start with arms completely extended, even though you're doing the false grip? And it's
So,
hard to extend your arms?
so that's where we're modifying each person is going to be very different. Like, yes, I do want to start with the fully hanging, position, elbows straight, shoulders open, all that stuff. If someone has the ability to do strict ring muscle ups, but they have to start off a box, and everyone they do is started like this, I'm gonna have them do that because now at least they're pulling their full body weight, even if it's on low rings, doesn't matter. I'm gonna have them do that because they're gonna pull full body weight, they're gonna dip full body weight. That works. Technically, is it RX? No, because they didn't fulfill a full range of motion of movement. And my goal is to get them to the point where they can get to that straight elbow and now complete the whole movement. So it's going to be a matter of, can you click the RX button? No, you modified it. If it was quarterfinals and there's strict muscle ups in quarterfinals, not going to fly. It's got to be a straight arm. So, but it's different. We're training. We're not always competing. We're training and we're practicing. So like let that come into play at times too. And that's not the green light to just cut ranges of motions off everything. This is a very particular situation. That was a good question, D. All right, let's go GHD today. My mayhem athletes of the world. If you're coaching class later on today, you got GHDs. Sorry, hold on, this was reading up. Let's look at Jose. Is this you here, or who is that on the end? That's you.
Yeah, that's me, and behind me is
Shy's
Shy.
here. Yeah. Let's look at Jose, and then we'll take a look at Shy. I'm just gonna stop that video there. Let's talk about Jose's setup. Your coaching class. Do you approve? Do you not approve?
I approve.
I approve too. Setup's nice. Is what the two biggest things I'm looking for. I want to make sure that hip crease is very clear of the pad. He's doing that. If you're not sure, just look to see where their butt is. That's a really good indicator of if they're clear of it or not. And then I want to see does he have some bend in the leg when he's locked in here? Those are going to be my two main things as far as the GHD sit-up setup. All right, now let's watch him move. What do you guys got, good or bad?
I think he is extending his legs on the way up, so that's good.
Great, love it. Which I'm going to throw a little caveat on that. The way Jose's doing these right now are beautiful. That is how you want to do a GHD sit-up. He's firing the legs are straight like he's saying. So it's not just his abs, his hip flexors, his quads are assisting him to pull up. So the GHD is not just like a ab thing or a core thing. It can be a leg trainer too. So I love that. What about anything else?
It hurts of just watching.
Hurts your
So the
abs because you know the soreness or
thing
your
here,
lower back?
no,
Your
my
lower
lower
back
back.
here.
The thing
I
here
can
is the
tell.
lower back. The difference
Yeah.
between me and Shy.
So I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop Shy. We'll take a quick glance at him.
I was
So
just straight
right,
from the hip to the
yeah. Right now, if you look at Shy, so the guy behind Jose, if you took him and you just stood him upright and you unbent his legs, his hips, torso, he's just open. It looks like he's standing. If you took him and stood him up, it just looks like he's standing, right? That's our end range of motion, right? I don't want to reach to touch the floor and hyperextend. So Shy's build, he's able to just open his hip. He can touch the floor to fulfill standard and then come back. Jose, when he comes down, I would say right about maybe there-ish is his open hip. However, he's not touching the floor. Maybe if his hands were totally overhead, he could reach. But then he continues now, and look how far back he is. So I'm gonna also not just look at the setup for people and the are they firing the legs, but I want to see, are they hyperextending the back, because that's where the pain is going to start and the issues can arise from. So if I took him and I stood him just standing up, he's so far leaned back, he's probably going to fall over backwards. So if you're ever questioning it, just like take them and stand them up in your head and like, are they going to fall back or are they not going to fall back? I would look at that. I don't know off the top of my head, like measurements, but that's why you see sometimes in competitions, people get different pad measurements because they don't, it's not fair if somebody's 5 foot tall to try to be reaching the floor versus someone that's 6'2". It's going to be a big difference. Is that what you were going to ask, Steve? What do you got?
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know what that measurement exactly is. You could probably find it if you looked in, like, I think it was the first quarterfinal year, they had GHD sit-ups. They probably have like the standard tool there to keep it the same for everybody. But that would be like the biggest thing for Jose. And like you said, your back hurt on this, right?
Actually, Shy what said, we just find out after watching this video. He said, "Oh, probably you would benefit from a little bit farther your butt back. It's like not even like a whole. I think the
Like one
measure is like
tick.
an inch and a half, like probably just half an inch. It will be make like actually the right spot for you for not actually bend." So he asked me next one to go
Play with it. Yeah,
one.
take a video. Take a video when you do that too. If you ever watch Matt Fraser do them, he puts it like way forward and his butt, he's like only on like mid hamstring. Like his butt is so far off. And what I would guess, because I had a whole conversation with this with between me, Mike, and Santi, because Mike saw Matt Fraser do it, he mimicked him. And then Santi was like, "You're doing GHD sit-ups wrong." And Mike was like, "Well, Matt Fraser does them this way." But I think the part Mike was missing was Matt Fraser. I don't know exactly what he had, but he had lower back surgery. So there's probably a good chance that any kind of hyperextension doesn't feel good for him. So he found a way to modify the GHD sit-up because he has to do them because he was a competitor to not have pain. So like, there may be some little altercations here based on what people do, but then the reality is if you had lower back surgery and you do, it does bother you, there's plenty of other ways to get your core stronger too. When you do that, Jose, take a video and send that so we can compare. Let's look
Also,
at Shy
that's my
real quick.
position in handstand walk. In handstand walk also flares
Send it.
the lower back pain. Yeah.
That doesn't happen to a lot of people on handstand walks, but I have heard instances where people have like back agitations and in a couple cases injuries because of handstand walking very bowed. And people take it for granted. That comes into play definitely with the shoulders too. Can they open? What do you guys think of Shy back here? Doing what we want Jose to do on the back end, and then what else, Steve? I think that was you.
His legs, I feel like they look the same always.
He could fire the legs more for sure. He could get some more help from the hip flexors and the quads. Absolutely agree with you. Jose's firing of the legs, correct way to do a GHD sit up. Guy's firing of the legs, not the correct way to do a GHD sit up. However, sometimes, especially if you're putting yourself into a competitive situation, not firing the legs may be more helpful. And letting your abs take over more work versus hip flexors and quads take over more work. Like, what would be some good examples of that? If the
Yeah, so
workout had
this
box
workout
jumps?
was running in GHDs. So I think that pretty much all of them, but me, they were saving the legs.
They were trying to get out the legs. So I definitely think like in an environment where we're trying to maximize the time and efficiency, if you've got another movement that's going to blast the legs and especially the anterior chain of the legs, getting a little lazy with the GHD and doing it like only abs. I mean, your hip flexors are still going to play into that a bit, but not over firing them can help you out. I'm not telling you to go do your GHDs this way, but I'm saying it can be a smart competitor move when you need it. Questions or statements on that? Cool. We know competing isn't the most healthy thing ever, and there is going to be corners cut that, aren't just for health and longevity. Let's go. We got time for one more. Let's do a lift. We haven't done a lift yet. Let's go elite quarterfinals.
Oh shit.
Didn't know I was screen recording. Don't laugh, Lisa, because I screen recorded some of yours too.
Huh.
If you live feed yourself working out, I might just do it. I think there's a minute of lag. I think that video actually jumps. Let's play it. Obviously the weight on the bar for the quarterfinals workout, little later in this workout. So there's definitely some fatigue factored in.
That's 165.
That's 155.
That looked pretty easy.
Not bad. Time. You see something, just shout it out. Good or bad.
I wish you got my last two at 165 because those
That was crazy.
Those reps felt the best.
I have two things that I would say, especially like in this situation. One's for the clean, one's for the jerk. You guys have anything? It can be a good thing too, because I do have good things about the way she's approaching the bar.
I like the setup.
Yeah, I love it. It's a time workout, right? there's a sense of urgency. She still sets up, especially, you know, this is decent load. She still gets a good setup. It's not just grip it and rip it, because we see that all the time and then bad results end up happening. So I do like she takes a moment, she sets up. She's not panicking in this situation either. Some people start to panic, especially when it's getting a little heavier. Anything else before I jump in? I'm gonna drag it through slow too.
I kind of, the chest came forward on that last one a little bit, little dip forward.
On the jerk.
Yeah.
We'll take a look at that. So I think, yeah, I think you actually have a little more hip. I think you can work on getting the shoulders a little more like there's a good. The question is, are you as tall as you can be? Is your butt completely squeezed? I think there's a hair more. It's
Maybe.
very hard to tell. But like look at the shin angle comes in and then the thigh angle comes in and then it kind of changes again. There's a little slight bit of zigzag. It's, I think, super, super minimal. But I think it's maybe the reason why that you go, man, I wish you had the 160s because they felt the best. You probably hit that in the 160s because you were like, well, I need to get everything I have. And then you got everything opened and you're like, oh, they felt better. So I think it's just, I'm talking slightly cut here. And that's me being very, very like hypercritical. Like if you did that in a class of a lot of people, 99% of coaches are going to be like, hell yeah, nice job. But I love your receive is fantastic. You get your butt back and down. It's a solid position. Like, yeah, maybe the knees can be out a little bit more, but really, really nice with that. You didn't go to a starfish. So love the clean overall. Just, I think you got a hair more with the hips. Let's drag and jerk. Yeah, I agree with you. I think the torso looks a hair forward. If I pause that position. Right there. For that dip and drive and that torso to stay completely tall, what's something Elise can think about when she like moves?
Push your knees out.
Yeah, pushing the knees out, it's gonna give a little more space like in the hips and can help keep that torso a little more tall. I think your depth here, Elise, is pretty damn good. I don't think it's a tilt because of depth at all going too deep. So I would just push the knees out because I mean you even do a good job that your heels are still down, which is usually when you see the knees come forward like that, you see people's heels come off as well.
I think that was
Trying
a
to
good.
stop it right at session. So look at that compared to the last extension. There's your clue that those hips and the knees had more for the clean. Now you have this compare and contrast. So it was right there.
Punch hard.
What I'm looking at here is I love the extension, at least. I think you did a great job. And I was trying to see if if you were landing like too soon and trying to finish like a press rather than getting under. I don't think the landing's off. I think what kills you in like that position here, see how Elise has soft elbows and like it's not done. I think the thought of this is so on point with the drive, instead of thinking as of your jerks as a press, start to think of your jerks as a punch under. So don't think about the elevation of the bar up, think about the descent of your body down. You're gonna beat gravity to getting a lockout.
It's funny, I thought about that at the 165 because when I picked it up, I was like, fuck, this is heavy.
Then you're like, eek.
Yeah. And then I'm actually looking at my feet also. I think my feet, like the shuffle for the jerk, I think they could, I don't need to be launched that high up off the ground. I need to have more of a shuffle instead of like a lift off.
Oh, like your actual jump, you mean?
Yeah. Like I should just like, I remember working with B2B barbell
Okay.
and they always said like shift your feet like you're sliding a credit card across, like the old credit card slide.
Yeah.
Think
So
about
that
instead of
would
jumping and landing.
that would also go, I would say, hand in hand from what I was gonna say too. Like you're thinking of punching your body down, right? So you can get the locked out arms, right? what's stronger, a quarter lunge or pressing a barbell overhead? Like the quarter lunge is going to be easier. If I'm locked out, I'm stiff arming the bar, I can support that weight. So we want to get to that position. The shuffle, like that quick shuffle part, like what's that going to make you do in your head? It's going to make you kind of think of like, I'm going to go quick, right? For jerks, speed kills. Speed is your best friend. So the quicker you can get those feet there and under, if you think more shuffle rather than like big donkey kick and land, it's going to be a faster dynamic repetition. The faster dynamic repetition means what? We're moving faster than gravity, and that is our goal here. We're propelling the bar as high as we can with the drive. I'm going to beat gravity on the under. See, Jose. Have a good day, dude. So like, you said on that 165, like how much easier that ended up getting for you, and you just stuck the shit out of it because you did get faster and you did get under. Start applying that, and like next time, all of you guys jerk, don't just think of I am pressing overhead. Think of the speed and I'm getting under with it, and I'm telling you, it is amazing. It's like magic when it happens. Caveat: if you don't have good split jerk footwork and you're still finding balance and it's not a locked in land, don't apply speed to the split jerk. Work on it in the push jerk and then get your footwork down before you get fast in the split jerk. Because driving a car faster isn't going to make you a better driver, right? You got to learn how to steer before you drive fast. Same concept in CrossFit. Watching, when I was at Mako, watching Matty Rogers, he was doing split jerks off the blocks, I think at 330, doing doubles, right? Hitting one, dropping it, resetting, hitting one, dropping it. And then I saw her shoulder press. And I'm talking max effort, dying, doing sets of 5 at like 90 pounds, which was like crazy to me. I'm like, hold on. I just watched her easily split jerk over 300 pounds. And then, you know, she's struggle busting a small set of shoulder press. That goes to show like the speed and the technique, how much that matters and makes a difference. So that means I should split jerk 450, not even close, but gives me hope. Any like questions, thoughts, statements on that?
I wonder what kind of like stability shoulder work she does, because I understand the technique of getting underneath it, but then at some point you have to have the stability of
There's
the
still a
shoulder,
lot of strength for
the rotator
stability.
cuff muscles. Like she's probably doing a fair amount of accessory stuff for her shoulders. Has to.
But it's also, you know, it's a really easy thing to think of too. That would be a large difference. How many people have you seen bench press and they get off the rack and they have straight arms and they're fine? And then the moment that there's no more stacked like joints happening and the joints break and now it's more of a musculature job, it just fucking collapses on them. So like if you think of Olympic lifts and especially jerks, like I'm essentially, my goal is to go from here, it's stacked on my joints, to here, it's stacked again, and this middle ground doesn't exist. I'm almost trying to avoid that middle ground. And that's why speed can be such a powerful thing in the jerk. Because if I can go from stacked joints on joints position, joints don't break, they're the strongest range of motion we have when they're either closed off or on top of each other. If I can go from here to here, because I'm just basically faster than gravity, I'm good, because now I'm just restacked again. So there is definitely like stability going on. If there was major issues with that, obviously it wouldn't work out well. But I think it can be a big difference of the muscle actually moving the load versus structure holding the load. Does that make sense?
And Nate, on the split jerk, someone was telling me that you want to plant that back foot first before the front foot in the split. Is
There
that
is,
or is it just preference?
so there is an order it's supposed to go in. However, it's like boom, boom, like it's very, very fast. See, at least I find in coaching that it's not something I think most people you watch and work with need to focus on. Like they're gonna have this way bigger fish to fry before trying to do that. Like versus, you know, if it is, you know, someone going to worlds and they're competing for a championship, that may make a difference versus if it's just someone at my Olympic Oli class. I probably got 7 things to work on before I even think of putting that thought in their mind. So I would have that in consideration too. Like, is the footwork, is like where it's landed, the way the knees bent, the back foot, you know, where is the front foot, the weight distribution, is all of those things perfect? If that's the case, then I would then go to something like that. You guys ever heard the term "don't major in the minors"? So it's a saying. It's like don't put all your focus into like very minor things. Put your focus into the big fish to fry, and then we'll do the minor things later on, basically. A really good example is when coaches teach Olympic weightlifting, and they're like, when you set up, like, let's go knuckles to the floor, and let's rotate the elbows into an internal rotation so they're facing out. But then the person's like got their butt above their shoulders. Like, who cares how their knuckles are if they can't get into a sound position? That's the most common example I see. Good question. Anything else you guys got? Cool. Good day today. I will see you guys on Tuesday. I'm gonna upload that video in stress. If you guys got anything that you want to see on like the Tuesday calls, let me know and I'll find those topics and send your workout videos. See you guys Tuesday.
Thanks, Nate.
You guys are welcome.